trends in thriller genre writing, this conversation explores how thrillers have been driven by inner fear, conflict, and fast-paced realities of the modern world. The thriller genre today is not just about crime or mystery. It reflects society's anxieties, questions authorities, and keeps readers hooked while making them think. To explore this gripping literary landscape, we are delighted to welcome our speakers on the stage with a huge round of applause, Mr. Jalaj Srivastava and Dr. Pradeep Kapoor. Can we welcome them with a huge round of applause, guys? Mr. Jalaj Srivastav brings with him a remarkable journey that bridges science, governance, and storytelling. He had studied physics before briefly teaching at the St. Stephen's College in Delhi, and then entering public service as an IPS officer in 1983, and later joining as an IAS in 1984. Alongside his distinguished administrative career, he has made a powerful mark as a thriller writer. His debut novel, The Perfect Suicide, is now in its second edition, and the third book, A Dog Who Spoke Too Much, is currently under the process, reflecting his growing impact on the genre. Joining him in conversation is Dr. Pradeep Kapoor, a pediatrician by profession and a prolific writer by passion. A gold medalist in his MBBS batch, and Dr. Kapoor has authored 10 books. Beyond fiction, his widely read books on parenting, including Make Your Child a Winner, a national bestseller, and Common Sense Parenting, have been translated into 7 languages. A member of Screenwriters Association, he is also great at writing scripts, screenplays, and dialogues, and has collaborated on short films. And together, they two bring distinct yet complementary perspectives onto the topic of thriller writing. One shaped, governance and real-world power structures, and the other human psychology, relationships, and lived experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, please be ready for this gripping conversation. It's going to be a great session. Can we start it with a huge round of applause? Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session on emerging trends in crime thriller genre writing. I have with me Mr. Jalaj Srivastav, and we both will try to make it as interesting as possible for you. So let's begin straight away. You were an IPS probationer and then an IAS officer. And you were with the law all your life. Then you have written a crime novel, The Prime Target. It has a very dangerous criminal and a diabolical plot. So how did you achieve this criminal excellence? I mean criminal writing excellence. How did you become a crime writer, basically?
If you heard my wife, she would agree with you. Criminal excellence. Sare Gurujanon ko pranam. I'm very, very thrilled to be here. Let me very briefly say that I have always been a physics student, then taught for some time, IPS, that's part of it, but I have done my fair share of reading of naturally the Sherlock Holmes and the Agatha Christie novels and stuff. But the 5 years in the Home Ministry, I think that was the turning point. So I had read a lot. And with crime comes crime control, so that explains part of it. But that aside, my first novel, The Perfect Suicide, went largely unnoticed. Therefore, it is in the second edition. It's getting reprinted. This one took me a much longer time. Fortunately, we were all benched as a nation during the COVID years, and so it gave me a lot of time to write this. And therefore, I got a lot more time refining it. So if you think it's a diabolical plot, thank you so much. The way it has happened is that I have, instead of writing linearly, I have collected so many small little snippets of information, news reports, stuff which you remember through. I create a plot beginning to the end, and then I try to fit in as many instances from real life as possible. So it's 80% of the stuff is thanks to our news reports, but the imagination is naturally all mine. The fictionalization is entirely mine. Please.
So basically, we have mystery novels, crime novels, and thrillers. Although there is a considerable overlap amongst these, but each has its distinctive features also. In a mystery novel, the culprit is revealed right at the end. In crime thrillers, the criminal may be exposed right at the beginning. What he does and how he is caught is basically the plot. So, in which category would you like to put your book? Mystery, crime, or thriller?
I think a psychological thriller would be the briefest description. I generally do not like violent or horror or supernatural and all this. Technical के लिए मुझे पढ़ना बहुत पड़ेगा. Would you mind if I went bilingual? I mean, मैं दो भाषाओं में नालायक हूँ. Okay, so उसमें, for example, courtroom dramas, the Della Street and Perry Mason. I'm actually reading law and courtroom procedure to be able to write my fourth novel, where there is a will. So a lot of it is what I would like to imbibe first, be very well researched and competent, and then go for it. Therefore, my space would be psychological, somewhat intelligent thriller. Suspense and mystery is something which, if you went very granular, you would say much of Ramayana and Mahabharata is full of mystery and suspense. I mean, so let me just stick to being a psychological, somewhat intelligent thrillers, but very well researched, and the hard work will show.
So there's another way of, usual way of classifying books. We call them fiction and non-fiction. There's another category which is called faction. Here, the fiction is based on facts. There are some real life incidents on which the author builds his story. Literally, people are have a propensity, very fond of making classifications and categories. So we have another category which is called narrative non-fiction. It's basically a book of non-fiction, but it is told in a narrative style where the author uses his own personal experiences or some stories to embellish that non-fiction book so that it doesn't become a bit tedious or boring. So going by this classification, where does your book fit in?
I think it would be fairly justified to say that what I write is the mirror image of what you've just said. For example, one of my favorite authors, Sri Iyer, who paints everything something else, who painted my house black, who painted my money purple, etc. That's really writing true stories but with embellishments and changing the names. Mine is very, very different. Some incident, some shootout happens in 2003, that Connaught Place shootout, for example, or demonetization happens, or in this book, I have even written about the leader of opposition going across and hugging the prime minister, but for a completely different reason. Demonetization happens in a completely different narrative. So I picked out things which happened in 1982, 1961, etc. True stories. But I have fitted them into my story of 2016 to 2018 maybe. Or maybe in my next novel, if it is based in 2011, then things which are happening for the previous lots of years, I'll pick out those isolated incidents and make them happen. So that is how this space gets. And there's something I would like to certainly say. 37 years in the IAS and one as IPS and some more. It gives you a sense of law. It gives you a huge sense of justice. We all know that. I would prefer the real incident and the real ending fulfill both the criteria. It should have law and justice delivered both at the end. but with a huge preference for justice. Law, 5.5 crore cases pending. So let's see how institutionally my style of writing would, if I may call it my style, would lay a lot of emphasis on institutions and not on individuals. So there is no bond. There's a lot of M, right? There is no individual chase and shoot and kill. There's a lot of complete planning. The entire operation is planned for several months, if not several weeks, and then how do you go and institutionally take care of it? That's my kind of writing. So there's a lot of planning. Nothing happens by chance. Everything happens by prior preparation. That is how I would like to,
So this question is slightly different from the writing work. What were you thinking, or rather, what were you drinking when you wrote this novel? Because while reading your book, I could ascertain that your knowledge of Somras is phenomenal.
Well, thank God you didn't ask what was I smoking. I'm not a smoker. So, but then thanks, I was certainly not drinking soda. And to be very honest and modest, you see, I'm perfectly happy with a lot of single malts available and made in India. But in the year 2015, 16, 2020, 21, not so many. Point is, if I'm writing about two characters who are staying in Aberdeen, Scotland, place I've never been to, what would they like and which weather? So there was a lot of Googling. I spent more time Googling than drinking. I'm so sorry to disappoint you. But I was very precise about which drink would go best in which weather, what would they like, people who have millionaire kind of stuff, who are mercenaries and they can afford to pay for it. Not, I wouldn't withdraw from my GPF to drink. So that is how things happen. That's how I develop my plots. And if I'll take your permission to expand, some 3-4 kinds of high-end cigars are mentioned. Again, Googled them. Some places in Leipzig and Aberdeen, as I said, some national park and some place in Serengeti, Lake Victoria. The University of Madras ke bahar, there's a restaurant called Zaitun. I've never been there. I just Googled it all. So I think you'll give it to not just my fondness for drinks, but also my hard work. All that said, you're most welcome for a drink anytime in my house.
There's a famous saying, there's no good writing. There's no good writing. There's only good rewriting. So you prepare several drafts, you work through them, and then you refine, and ultimately a good product comes through. And there are some writers who think of the opening and then they move forward towards the end. And then there is a group of writers who would first conceive the ending. They'll crack the ending. This is how the book should end. And then they'll move backwards towards the opening. Everyone knows about GDP, gross domestic product. But in crime writing also there is a GDP. Grab, drag and propel. See, grab your reader by his neck, drag him through the middle and propel him towards a great ending. That's a summary of a great thriller. That's the technique of good thriller writing. So what's your process of writing? How do you develop your book idea and what's unique about your book?
Okay, my first book, for example, hugely inspired by Bruce Willis' Die Hard. Tall story, tall building, top floor, terrorist attack. But that's where the similarity stops. After that, it becomes a heist, naturally, to that part, yes. After that, it turns out, if you were to cross page 160 or something, it turns out that the crime, as it were, the operation, I'll call them all operations. The operation was being planned for almost 17, 18, 20 years. And people were placed for a certain training, for a certain job, so that they all come and meet there. So you will be reminded by what was the inspiration, Murder on the Orient Express. Okay? That is how I pick up a certain idea that how come, why can't it be a perfectly executed operation? So therefore you have to not call it a crime and an operation, you have to see that there was law, but the justice part was missing. So then you sort of develop so many subplots, so many sub-thrillers, so many sub-stories, and then. So I tried to write down in longhand about 2 pages of the beginning and the end and the general idea. Then I tried to split up into 10 chapters or so, and then I tried to fill up from all sorts of incidents which will go into creating the meat for this novel. In the second one also, completely a political thriller, the one, The Prime Target. It's about the intended assassination of the Indian Prime Minister. The moment Trump came to power, the very next year a book came out, How to Kill the President or something like that. Well, except that they are acting on it. The BJP MP, Madam Meenakshi Lekhi, actually co-authored a book called The New Delhi Diaries about an attempted. So I thought I was actually safe to write this one at least. It was much more detailed, except that instead of heavily being inspired by the Jackal, the Day of the Jackal, I didn't want to make it one political party funding a certain assassin to go and kill the President de Gaulle. That would have been too 1960s. Besides, I do not go after individuals. I go after institutions as inviolate. So whether it's the opposition or the government or any political leader, any political ideology, I'm equally respectful to them. The Prime Minister's office, the SPG's office, the NSA's office, irrespective of who's in there, is inviolate. That's my sort of drummed into me as a civil servant. But that aside, there are always individuals who are not quite right. So any conspiracy, and if you were to read this book, I'm sure you'll like it and go along with me. It's about how they conspire to make a certain thing, but it is not one assassin go after one man. So I have to create, in a country as vast as ours, how do you create a narrative? So you have to create a justification for that somebody wants to come to power. All very well. But you have to create so many other disturbances, so many assassinations and so on. Some appearing natural, some appearing ghastly. All that is given in a narrative. So building that narrative justifies all that, Somras. That is how I go about writing.
So I have abbreviated the title of this book to TPT, the prime target, because whenever my wife called me, what are you doing? I am reading TPT. Because it's a big book, more than 400 pages, and big pages. The printing is also not that big, so probably more than 1 lakh words, I think.
I guess so. I guess so.
So how much time actually did it take actually from planning to writing this book?
The first book took me 5 weeks, but
Yeah.
then I had thought about it for almost 7, 8, 10 months. I had a light assignment, so it was easy. I could type. I had all the time. I was more or less benched in a Thanda Basta kind of posting, which gave me a lot of time. But in the second book, a little emboldened, if I may say, since nobody filed any complaint against me and so on in the first book, so I went ahead with the second one and dealt with that topic, assassination of the PM kind of thing, conspiracy theory, etc. It took me, I think, 1 year and 4 months, but that includes tearing up roughly 500, 400 something pages, 480, 500 pages. So I rewrote them, made them crisper. So the real hard work was, I think, about a month, and which includes about 500 hours of Googling.
Yeah, but
So
I
it's
should
very-
call it, that is pretty fast actually.
Yes. No, the one thing which I do not do is, I'm not AI savvy. I'm only on ChatGPT for the last 7, 8, 10 days. And that also to fix my air program or something, travel program. What I will never do is ask my servant जा बेटा चाय बना ला और इस बीच बेटा GPT ज़रा 500 word की 500 page की एक कहानी छाप दे. That I will never do, because I think what the AI should not be empowered enough to predict a very original plot. Someday they may be smarter than me, but they will not be me. Oh, thank you so much. That was impromptu, by the way. But point is, if I have to just sit down, now I have started using a Dragon Dictate, so it's slightly faster. But the first one was completely typed by hand. Nothing more to it, really.
Do you prefer using strong word choices and literary devices to embellish your writing?
Yes, most certainly I do, most consciously I do. You see, I belong to the generation which may commit a lot of mistakes, but will never make mistakes. I'm somewhat old-fashioned, so let me stick with my choice of words. The reader is expected not to like the novel. You're not supposed to applaud it, but you're supposed to think. So first time you read it, please go through it. Like the novel, maybe. But the second time you'll read it for the beauty of the phrase and the twist and the humor and the numerous references in this book to the Mahabharata. There's a lot of, I think, original interpretation, or at least studied interpretation used imaginatively in this book. I love doing that. I love drawing alliterations, drawing parallels. It's a very imagined how our Prime Minister's childhood would have been. How, what would he have done finding a guru and learning what from him. So I'm trying to imagine that there was a lot of Chanakya drilled into him by his guru. So that's how I've used all that, a lot of imagination into how it could have been, and then used it imaginatively in my book. So that's how I would say. And you mentioned TPT. In the first book, The Perfect Suicide, I had put in 11 completely true incidents from my Home Ministry files, used in such a way. Usme Sundar Daku was killed in 1975. But I used that in a story written in 2016 as a contemporary thing, along with so many. Delhi, Connaught Place shootout. I made it a Connaught Circus shootout. I actually walked at that peak traffic hour through Connaught Circus just to find kaun si shop kahan hai, agar yahan pe shootout hua hoga, how it would have happened, how the police teams would have come from two sides, from New Delhi railway station side, etc. It's all meticulously worked out. Similar in the second one. There are 37 true incidents and real characters, diaphanously for you to see. And I can say, well, to take some famous names, Benazir Bhutto, General Kayani, Ajit Doval ji, Pradhan Mantri ji, Rahul Gandhi ji. Did I mention the people who died? Rajnikant ji, Baba Ramdev, Ram Rahim. Yeah, they are all part of my, because that's all, if it's not them, somebody else would. The sadhu is a combination of Ram Rahim and Asaram Bapu and Baba Ramdev. So I'm sure that's how it works. And naturally, Rahul ji walks across and hugs the PM, but you won't know the reason why he does so. And at no point would I criticize one party or one leader, ever. It's my heroes and villains are completely institutional and very meticulously they have researched their jobs. They are not incompetent, ever. So you will like that part. Please.
You have rightly said that if you base your book in a city you know very well, you know the locations, the streets, the bylanes, then your writing becomes really authentic. If you write about a city which you have never visited, probably mistakes would creep in, or the descriptions won't be that authentic. So you are walking through those streets and in the evening traffic added probably to the authenticity of the description.
Sir, there is a Google AI assistant. There's a little putla who keeps on street map. वो देखता है. Leipzig I have never been to, but I have written about the market plots or something, and there's a. I think a lot can be
Through
fudged,
Googling.
can be done.
Yeah,
through
but
Googling.
not the entire
But
book.
Obviously not.
Yeah.
The authenticity needs to be there. So I managed to do that.
I had read a story about an author who had fixed a red bulb at the entrance of his room. So whenever it was switched on, it meant that he is writing. So no one is to disturb him. No one should enter his room. So do you also have some quirky writing habits or
You'll have to ask my wife about that.
some routine that may irritate
No,
him?
I don't think. I just request everybody in the house that I'm going in a corner. When would you like me back for lunch? That sort of thing. It works. So if they say 1.5 ghanta hai, so I get 1.5 ghanta to write.
Right.
Otherwise, usually it's more about my thinking out the plot than writing it down. Writing can happen बहुत जल्दी, but it's how you keep composing. No, I do not have any quirkiness. So, sorry to disappoint you. Maybe I become a little more famous, then maybe I'll develop some.
Some routines and some.
No, there's no set pattern.
So they say writing is 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. It's only a few inspiring moments when you really do some rapid creative writing. But mostly it's the perspiration part that makes you finish a novel. You have to put your pen to the paper, or nowadays your fingers to the keyboard. So have you faced a writer's block or periods of low creativity anytime while writing?
I don't think so. I think it's more of you play a set and then you sit down, wipe your face, have a little bit of water, and then at your own choice you go back to the drawing board. That sort of thing. It's more by option. After I am writing or thinking about it, I'll put it aside and go on a vacation. To tell you honestly, there was this book by Sunil Gavaskar ji, Sunny Days, in which he's asked once that you are singing and dancing and talking to the wicketkeeper, everything and so on. So how are you able to concentrate so much? So he says, look, all those antics I do while the bowler is going till there. Once he starts the run up, and you being a cricket person, you should appreciate this more. When he starts the run up, I'm 100% there. So when I'm not 100% there, I'm actually just relaxing. So I'm not thinking about the book. I'm completely detox nahi bolna chahiye tha. I'm taking off from the book. And
I have read this book and there are a lot of mythological references. So what do you think is the contemporary Indian scenario in contemporary Indian crime fiction writing, especially with reference to mythology?
as I said earlier, a lot of mystery, drama, suspense is there in your Ramayana, Mahabharata. If you just read Gita Press wali those tomes, you would be amazed and very violent too. That said, I think crime genre evolved with the Scarlet Pimpernel, Poe, Arsène Lupin, Baron de whatever. All these people were really aristocratic people. You know, they were delving in some, as an intellectual exercise, they're doing this, doing that. Then it came down a little to various, to the social fabric, with Holmes taking on any unique case, even of a very poor man, or Christie, and so on. That was that era when you had the First World War, Second World War kind of population, migration, some issues. And then I think there was this Cold War if I may call it, Cold War literature, which had Bond, which had your Vagara Vagara, Robert Ludlum, Jean Le Carré, and so on, which was another genre, and it's very typical of the times you're living in. Sorry, I'm taking a little longer, but I want to make a point here. Then you had Mr. Frederick Forsyth, who made you sit up. He wrote not of one subject but 3, 4. His first 4, 5 books were superb. After that, he was sort of repeating. And after that, I think the next best person who has come up, there's a very underrated writer called Alan Folsom. Alan Folsom. I read just one book. I don't think he wrote more than 2, 3. And it made me sit up. Amazing writing. Anyways, just after that, the next person who made you sit up was Dan Brown. And Dan Brown sort of said, okay, he started questioning certain precepts. Ki bhai, the heroine in the end of that Da Vinci Code, she's imbued with that genetic divinity of bringing up, of giving life to a person, to that pigeon or something. That, I think, was a turning point. Also because the 1990 onwards, there has been so much of disturbance, and you need to fix your faith on something. So that's why this somewhat religious revivalism is going on, if I may say. I'm not too good at this. I'm just making a broad categorization. Don't pin me down on this. With that came Ashwin Sanghi ji. I mean, he's coming tomorrow or day after. Superb writing, but the underlying point, I mean, whether it's Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra or Arjuna's bow or Chanakya chant or whatever, there is so much literature which can be used so effectively. I think for next 10, 15 years, at least 100 authors have got their hands full. But there's a deeper thing here. A lot of it, which we were brought upon, the stereotypes, Aryan invasion. Now that's in the dustbin. Aryan migration, we are not too sure. Sinoli, some Kiladi, some excavation happens, and all history which you have learned so far becomes so irrelevant. Now the problem, and here I don't want to be individual, to be pointing fingers at anybody, but a true scientific mind should go like this. You have a theory which has worked the test of time, and you have some evidence which challenges this theory, then you should have the scientific temperament to adjust your theory to the real evidence found. You do all the fact checking, of course. You should not be so pig-headed to say that no, my theory is sacrosanct and all the evidence should dance around it. Right? So, with probably the Ram Setu or the Dwarka thing, the underground city, or some any excavation which has happened or which may happen, which can throw a new light on anything, should be prompting a lot of newer writing. And that is where what we regarded as mythology, that plus some new excavation or plus some new evidence becomes history. Very old history, but history nevertheless. And we must also know that most of our cultural knowledge traditions are based on oral transmission of knowledge. So I think we must be gracious enough to admit that fair enough, we learned something for 40, 50, 60 years. That may have been somewhat uninformed. So let us inform ourselves and create a fresh theory. And in this evolution, if you believe that we are at least a 10, 12, 15, 20,000 year old civilization, fair enough. We draw those lines and we make projections and we fit evidence to make good storytelling. And therefore, in the last few years, whether it is Dan Brown's inspiration or whether it is Ashwin Sanghi ji's and others' writing, I think we are on a very nice creative path. To the extent that there are a couple of very amusing, good murder mysteries coming out of Ghalib is able to solve a murder, something in the Lal Killa, something. I forget the name of the book or the author, but beautifully written. And similarly, you have some, even Agatha Christie wrote about some murder having taken place in Egyptian times. But that was that was an isolated incident. But I think that there's a lot more writing which is waiting for you in the next 10, 15 years. So I would not try to pin it as mythology or history. But there will be some very intelligent writing, I hope. I'm not into it yet. But I wish.
You expect this trend to continue
I
for
think.
another 10, 15 years.
I don't know. I started so late. वो होता है ना डीजल का इंजन देर में गर्म होता है. So I started writing in 2016. अभी तो मैं शुरू किया हूँ भाई, थोड़ा तो वक्त दीजिए मुझको. अभी 10 साल भी नहीं हुआ पूरा. But I don't think I'll be switching the genre so easily. So far, my first one was a pure heist stroke revenge. Second one was pure assassination thriller, political assassination thriller. Third one, I'm detoxing. The dog who spoke too much. I was so inspired by my little Shih Tzu that I said, okay, let me dedicate something to him. And it's about the dog does something which is completely unexplained and therefore it solves the mystery. I don't know what the mystery is as of now. But inspired by a nasty shootout between two brothers in Delhi, both of them combined are reputed to have an empire of what, several lakh crores. And probably, I'm told, this shootout was organized by somebody who owed them 15,000 crore rupees. So in order not to pay back that money, he made that happen कि इन लोगों का जो हो सो हो, मैं तो अब safe हूँ, मैं तो. Now that kind of a narrative I had never heard before. And that sort of a thing, you have a clear-cut villain, but here is some very new motive. So now that I have told you the punchline, let's see how I can come up to the expectations of the writing of. Yeah. So that's how I evolve. Yeah.
So you listed quite a few authors through the ages. Which two would you list as the ones who really inspired you to go into crime writing?
देखिए साहब, आर्थर कॉनन डॉयल को तो आप बिल्कुल अलहदा रखिए, उनको दो में मत काउंट कीजिए. But I would say certainly Frederick Forsyth and Dan Brown. Yeah. Certainly.
You have used a lot of tech in your book. So what emerging trends, as the topic says, emerging trends in thriller genre writing, do you see coming through in the books in the next few years?
Okay, let me put it this way. If somebody were to go commit a crime, he would try to establish an alibi by being seen in some club or some home or with some friends. Creation of an alibi. I wasn't there, therefore I couldn't have done it. Right? That's the basic premise. The job of the police is to punch holes in his theory. Now that is so passé. You can deep fake anything. You can hack the CCTV. The CCTV is there to record and you can hack it or you can run a loop. There's so many things. Spoofing a fingerprint, oh come on, child's play. 8th class ka bacha bhi with cellophane and a pencil can spoof my fingerprint. Voice and iris, again, excellent biometrics, but they can be, the moment they can be read, they can be digitized, they can be replicated, and they can be therefore be planted on someone else. So even that is not. Gait analysis is what they came out with. But I was seeing happily, somebody has cracked that also. He introduced a lot of bees, honeybees along with it, so that confused the cameras. Deep fake is, so you don't know who to trust. And as I was jocularly telling my batchmates, some of who are here, that badhiya, now all those old video clips of mine, I can explain away ki ye to deep fake hai. But on a serious note, none of what we believe is the usual way of crime thriller genre writing is going to hold true. A lot of will have to be reimagined, and that is what is most exciting. So I think in the new age, cyber frauds online remote control, how you are able to, now neurons are the next best thing. How sitting here you can hack a person's neurons and make him do things. That is the next emerging technology. Again, gait analysis, although that was fiction, what I just told you, but as I see it, if somebody can develop an exoskeleton with computer chips fitted into those little appendages and fit on me and monitor it and hack it in such a way, or rather tutor it in such a way that I start walking exactly like Dr. Kapoor, then I can be pediatrician for a day. The thing is, it's doable. If it can be imagined, it can be done. 3D printer, where did the gun come from? Who could have smuggled the gun inside? यहाँ पे printer रखा है भाई, किया और उसके बाद आपने fireplace में छोड़ दिया, except for the firing pin. Everything can be destroyed. So the new thrillers will have to be completely reimagined. As for bitcoins, financial transactions, really obscene amount of data transfer and therefore fund transfer, that will have to be imagined. Stuff on ecological disasters will have to be health, ecological. Those are new challenges. I think you will see a lot more writing coming that way.
There's a unique, we mostly see phone tracking to catch the culprit, but you have used a very unique way of avoiding that also in this book by putting it in a jar and putting it on speaker phone, then putting second phone near it. The one person speaks on the phone, that voice gets transmitted, but the tracking is not possible.
Tracking is not possible. That's true. No, I think I have used a lot of these tricks, a lot of somewhat ingenious things. There is something about spoofing a bullet, which you'll probably not find anywhere. So, well, I can only hope some of you will read the book.
So the time is running short.
Time is
So
a
I'll
constraint.
just ask you. I think you have already told, but what kind of book we can expect from you next?
I will be making a whodunit with, again, deep-seated true incidents, deeply embedded true incidents.
Sort of faction.
Sort of action.
Thank you so much, our speakers. Now we'll have some questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question to ask our guests?
Oh, please, I'm quite questionable. Please go ahead. Go on, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was very glad to see discussion of the Googling aspect of writing, because when I read a book, half the fun of for me is to Google stuff from it, and I find it very amusing when a writer discusses what they Googled. So I want to ask you, were there any good peculiar Google searches that you made where you started like questioning your direction a little bit?
No. It was like Leipzig. Show me the map. Which is the central point? What all kinds of shops are there? What do people? There's a complete German meal. So I simply say, what is Delikatessen in German? What a person who is not going to eat bratwurst and this burger and this sausage, what would he be expected to eat? So that comes out. That's sort of Googling.
So you always have a plan.
Yeah. I'm just making things precise. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, one last question.
Okay.
Mike.
Please, sir.
I'm Anshuman sir. I've also written a book. I'm fiction writer, but not thriller much. When you were replying to questions, I felt that there will be the same answers of mine. So many things that you have mentioned was something that was touching me. Like you have mentioned about that you Googled about some area and you have written about. So I've written, in my book I've written about London, but I've never been to London. But I've Googled that area, and somebody who was reading there and stays there, he feels that it cannot happen that you have not been to London. But you have not answered one question of his, that whether to start the ending first or the beginning first, or it varies.
No. I write in 2 pages what I want to write the novel about. The entire thing. And then I expand it into about 10 pages. And then I think of all the instances, true life incidents which can be fitted where, irrespective of where they come from. Right? And Googling is more of a crutch. It's not my leg. So just to be precise, just to have, for example, I've written very extensively about a certain bore rifle and a certain bullet. It took me a long, long time to know the relative merits and demerits of various kinds of sniper rifles and which bullet to use. And I was vindicated. I have to boast. In 21, I wrote this, and in 2023, the government of India ordered same Lapua Magnum .338 for its sniper rifles. So felt so good. Please.
Thank you. I felt like I was on the edge of my seat just listening to that discussion. Writing a thriller is an art, but understanding where the genre is going, that is science. We've had a masterclass in how to keep the pages turning and hearts racing in this modern age. A huge thank you to Mr. Jalaj Srivastav ji for decoding the mystery behind the suspense, and to Dr. Pradeep Kapoor ji for moderating this session with such sharp investigative precision. You both truly captured the pulse of this genre. To express our gratitude to our distinguished guests, I would like to invite Meenakshi Dua ji, a member of the Society for Culture and Environment, to join us on stage to present the festive memento. This is a very special token. The BLF 2026 memento features artwork created by Padma Shri artist Durga Bai specifically for this festival. It tells the story of Litter Gulalia, a story of devotion. A tiny bird loved by Bangs who is transformed by the tribal god Buradev into a beautiful maiden, bringing joy to him and his struggling family. It is a story of transformation and magic, much like the stories we've just discussed. Thank you so much, guests. Thank you so much, audience. Hoping to see you soon in the next session.